And good morning, everyone. Time for another episode of Jeep Chronicles. Some of you may be new to following me, and you will learn as you follow that from time to time, I try to do it weekly, but sometimes I just can't get to it because I'm overwhelmed with a whole lot of great stuff that I'm working on for you guys. But here in Jeep Chronicles is where I discuss everything from health, which is majority of the time, to certain things that are just on my mind. Yeah, like current events and, hot topics. But majority of the time, it's always dealing with health-related issues. So that's the purpose of some of you tuning into Jeep Chronicles to see what my thoughts are on health as well as current events. You don't have to agree with me on anything I say. And I'm fine with that. But do know that everything I say comes back by actual facts. So some may dispute what facts are. Are they true, or is it just that person's opinion on facts? I'm not here to discuss that or not. If you understand where I'm coming from, and you've done your research, and you find that my thoughts are inaccurate, that it has no validity to it, then please let me be aware of it. But understand, when I speak from what cannot be refuted. That's why I speak with confidence, because I know I'm never going to say something that I have not thoroughly researched or have not been shown. So, for today's topic, I decided to do a current event, which I'm seeing just obliterating my timeline with the Ye incident, aka Kanye, to anti-Semitism, and I'm seeing so many different takes on it. I'm not here to justify Kanye because I don't know the brother. I'm not here to examine what he says and say that he's right or wrong because I don't know him. It's easy to make clips and present it or shed it in light. I'm not going to give you a clip. I want to discuss the origins of what it means to be anti-Semitic or what anti-Semitism means. So I'm not going to talk about Ye. I'm just going to talk about the root word. What does it mean? So hopefully we can bring clarity and understanding so we can have a better understanding of what is actually happening out here. Let's take the word Semite. If you believe in a word Semite, that means it only comes from the Bible. There's no outside resources that will tell you about a Semitic people other than the Bible, aka the first 5 books of the Bible is the Torah, which is the book of the law of the Israelite people. When you go into Genesis and you look at the flood story, that Noah had 3 sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. If you come from Shem, you're a Semite. That's all that means. And through the bloodline of Shem, eventually comes Abraham. Abraham then has Isaac, Isaac has Jacob and Esau, and the covenant was given to Jacob. Now, the Bible tells you in Genesis that Abraham will become a father to many nations. If you come from Abraham, Abraham had 8 sons, but only one was given a covenant, which was Isaac. And through Isaac was given to Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. So to be Semitic is not relegated to only the Jews. Semitic people also encompasses Arabs, white people, East Indians, some of the Palestinians, and some of the African nations. It's not relegated to just Jewish people. Because you will find that many Jewish people are actually converts to a religion called Judaism and not ethnic Jews. So when we look at the word, why are we using anti-Semitic if all these racial groups fall under being Semites? Because if you're a Semite, it's really you're a Shemite because you come from Shem. Only in the Bible, in the Torah, will you find Semite. So where did it become a racial thing? Well, now we got to go back into history of anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism was coined by a German writer who was an agitator. His name was Wilhelm Marr. because he didn't like the Jews who were dwelling in Germany at the time. It was about a power struggle because many of the Jews owned businesses. We're not talking about ethnic Jews, we're talking about convert Jews, not ethnic Jews. But this came about at that time of the late 19th century about attaching a racial component into a philosophy that had nothing to do about race. Because many of the Jews who dwelt in Germany or in Central Europe were converts to an ideology of the God of Abraham. You'll read that in Esther chapter 8, verses 8, how many people feared the ethnic Jews, so they became Jews. You're going to look, there's two different words, Yahudi and Yahudah. Yahudi are Jews who became Jews fraudulently. They put on fringes and started acting like the Jews to escape persecution from the Jews. That's how you got so many converts, to escape the persecution from the ethnic Jews. So now as time moves on, you had Wilhelm Marr with a pseudo-scientific belief that not only a religious component but also a racial component needed to be constructed. That's why he's called the agitator. He was a journalist. He was not a historian. He was not a religious person. So now he creates this mood and called it anti-Semitism to go against the converts who were in Central Europe at the time. It has nothing to do with the original term of what a Semite is and people who were anti-Semitic towards this racial group of people. That started in the first century when 70 AD happened and the Jews were kicked out of Rome. The Jews were kicked out of Israel. The Roman Christianity philosophy started going against the Israelites who dwelt, because Christianity taught that the Jews persecuted Christ when it was the Romans who persecuted Christ, not the Jews. Christ and the followers were practicing Jews. They kept the Torah, the 613 statute, laws, and commandments. They were not under the Christian philosophy of the law being done away with. But now, because of 70 AD in the first century, you had a whole group of non-Israelites take over and replace themselves as the new Israel. And so they had to demonize the ethnic, the racial Israel. And so now it morphed into anti-Semitism was anybody who was against ethnic Israelites. So now we got to understand what the term Jew means and why was it applied at that time. Because if you go back and read the book of 1 Kings, you're going to see there became a division in Israel, 12 tribes. The southern kingdom is recognized as Judah and Benjamin, sometimes Levi. The northern kingdom, which is Manasseh, Gad, Reuben, Simeon, Issachar, those decided to leave the God of the Israel and started worshiping after other gods. But the Jew portion, and Jew only means that you come from, Israel had 12 sons. His fourth son name was Judah. They stayed behind in Jerusalem, so they called it the land of Judah. Therefore, when Christ comes on the scene, there's only Judah and Benjamin and some of Levi left in the land. The northern kingdom had already been exiled. So now, when you refer or you see to those being called Jews in the New Testament, it's because only those who descended from the man named Judah, who's the fourth-born son, remained in the land. Not all 12 tribes are Jews. Only 2 are Jews of the 12, but all 12 are Israelites. If you descend from Judah, you're called a Judite. You descend from Issachar, you're Issacharite. Ite just means you descend from that person. So now at the time when Christ is on the scene, there's only Jews with a small portion of Asher, who was left there. Anna was an Asherite, who was left behind. That's why largely the New Testament you see Jew, 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 because the northern kingdom was exiled. So now, when the Romans and the Greeks had already conquered Jerusalem before Christ came on the scene, you had a group of people who were not Israelites, discriminating against the ethnic Jews inside their own land. And so now, even when the Jews had left there and was in places like Cappadocia and Rome and Galatia and Corinth, Ephesus, those people, because those are in Greek, remember the Romans and the Greek conquered Israel, the Jews who were living there had to assimilate or be killed. You'll read about that in 2nd Ezra. They were killed for acknowledging they were Jews, ethnic Jews. So they had to become converts, converted. You'll read about this if you read history. They had to convert to being Greeks. That's why when you see that term Grecian in the New Testament, that's referring to, if you see Greek, that's referring to the Grecian. Go to Grecians and look up in a concordance. That means a Jew who became Hellenized, making Greek their way of life, because they were getting discriminated against because of their ethnic or their ethnicity, which were being Jews. So now time goes on. Now we get to the Protestant Reformation with Martin Luther, who totally tried to reform. You do know Reformation means to protest. Now, early on in his ministry, he actually admired the Jews of the Bible. But as he started getting deep in his research and was influenced by the Catholic Church, because he was a Catholic at first, he started to have a disdain for the ethnic Jews. So he taught that the Christian church, who was non-Israelites, replaces the ethnic Jews. They become the new Israel. Now comes 1879, you have Germans, mainly Wilhelm Marr, who's teaching that regardless of these people are ethnic Jews or they're convert Jews, it's now become political and about money and not about ethnicity. So today when you hear a term or somebody says you're being anti-Semitic, but you're so-called black, Hispanic, Native American, you're East Indian from India, you're Arab, you are Semitic. You cannot be anti-Semitic because that's what Semitic means. That you derive from one of the sons. Remember, Abraham had 8 sons. So all 8 people groups that fall into that are Semitic. Why? Because Abraham's descends from Shem, one of the 3 sons of Noah. If you descend from Ham, you're a Hamite. You descend from Shem, you're a Shemite. Japheth, you're a Japhite. So when you hear Semitic, that means you come from Shem. So please, educate yourselves or stop spewing rhetoric that you keep seeing on social media or the news about black people being anti-Semitic. Black people are Semitic. They cannot be anti-Semitic. Semitic is not about a Jewish belief, but about a birthright of people that extends further than just black people. And remember, I said it encompasses East Indians and Arabs and whites. That is what is Semitic. I tell you what, go to etymology online and type in Semite. And let's see if what I say is true. You're going to see it is to a whole different groups of people, not just relegated to a Jewish people. Again, I'm not here to back or deny Kanye. I don't know the brother. Or people, Farrakhan, or all these other people. I don't know them. What I do know is the history of the Bible, and I do know the history of where these terms come from. That's all I'm saying, people. So stop spewing things if you have not educated yourself to understand what anti-Semitism means and what being anti-Semitic is. Black people cannot be anti-Semitic because they are Semitic. Arabs cannot be anti-Semitic because they are Semitic. East Indians from India cannot be Palestine cannot be anti-Semitic because they are Semitic. The modern term or use was developed in 1879 about discriminating against one people group, and they relegated it to only relegated it to only a specific group of Jewish people. And that's simply not true. That's the origins, that's the history, that is modern day. That's all I want to do is just share with y'all on this on my Jeep Chronicles. I hope y'all found this enlightening, and maybe it would help us to all understand what is going on. So with saying this, I bid you a good day and one love.